live web presentation brought to you by SAP Business Objects and our premier information management services partner, Utopia, Inc. My name is John Santic, and I'm an information management specialist with SAP's retail organization. As we begin our session today, let me first draw your attention to some housekeeping items that will help make this an interactive experience for everyone. We'd like to dedicate some time to answering your questions today. So you'll see to the right of your screen a question box. Feel free to submit questions throughout the presentation, and we'll look forward to answering as many as possible in the final segment of our time. Also, to maximize your screen real estate, you can click the arrow in the top left corner of the panel box to do so, and that'll expose the majority of your screen. Well, today's webinar is entitled, Enabling the Profitable Retailer, How Retailers Are Paving the Road to Enhanced Business Performance with Data Quality and Data Governance. And as we dive in today, I'd like to begin this presentation with a short story about connection. My hope is that this story will serve as a bit of a metaphor or framework for the ideas and best practices that will be shared today with you. This is an image of the Bosphorus Bridge in Istanbul, Turkey. And what's special or unique about this bridge is that it serves to connect the continents of Europe and Asia. Envision with me for a moment, if you will, what travel was like before the bridge was built. Can you imagine a time where ferries and boats were the only way to cross? Imagine what it meant for businesses trying to thrive. Well, in that environment, we could perhaps all agree that travel was difficult and complex, that it perhaps took too much time and was too expensive for people, or that it hindered business relationships and connectivity. And most importantly, we could probably all agree that it hindered profitability and opportunities for commerce. Ultimately, at some point, it was realized that there would be a great value in connecting the two continents, and that realization eventually justified the investment needed to build the bridge. Connecting Europe and Asia opened the door to opportunity and encouraged greater commerce for business in Turkey. Well, in many similar ways, data quality and governance, our topic today, are like this bridge that can serve to connect IT and business in your organization to empower greater collaboration, information trust, and profitability. You see, the retail industry is informing us that competition is tight, and there's never been a greater need for retailers to harness their information assets to ensure future growth and viability. Unfortunately, in most companies, there is a body of water between IT and business that really hinders the flow of information to enable better performance. For retailers, data is a gold mine that can transform the way business decisions are made and enable sales growth and profitability. Knowing and understanding your customers, products, and vendors can add millions of dollars to your bottom line and position you to compete better over time. If you add to this mix the reality of the growing volumes of data, or big data as we call it, this task seems daunting and the challenges are compounding. Truth be told, many companies struggle in this area to successfully execute on their best intentions. Well, today we're going to hear from two gentlemen with a wealth of experience, and they want to share their insights with you about bridge building. Or to put it another way, they want to share about the challenges that retailers are facing and how you can lay the foundation for improved data governance and enhanced performance with some simple data quality strategies. So at this time, I'd like to introduce you to our keynote speakers. One second as the slide's loading here. Apologize for the delay. Our first presenter today is Jerry Yao. He's the industry principal for SAP America Retail. Jerry's primary responsibilities are for thought leadership and business development. Jerry focuses on understanding industry and technology trends and leading practices in order to help retailers implement competitive strategy and achieve their business goals. He's a frequent speaker at retail industry events, and he publishes regularly in the trade press. Prior to joining SAP, Jerry spent over 20 years in management consulting with Price Waterhouse, Deloitte, and IBM. Jerry's conducted strategic information systems planning, package evaluation and selection, custom development, and system integration engagements for retail and CPG companies globally. He's also implemented leading software solutions that transform planning, merchandising, logistics, and store operations for both national and global retailers. And our second presenter is Frank Dravis, Senior Director of Solution Management at Utopia, Inc. Frank has 22 years of experience in EIM solutions design, implementation, and consulting. At Utopia, he carries multiple roles, including Director of Solution Management, and he's authored numerous white papers, including Creating a Data Quality Strategy and a Data Migration Management. He delivers consulting services on a variety of enterprise data lifecycle management projects, from data governance through data quality and to data migration. Frank's a thought leader in the area of data governance, and he brings a wealth of on-the-ground experience working with leading customers to achieve data supremacy. Again, I'd like to remind you to ask plenty of questions throughout the presentation through the question pane, and we'll address them in the final segment of our time. So at this point, and without further delay, I'd like to introduce you to Jerry Yao, Retail Industry Principal from SAP, and he's going to share his thoughts on industry trends, challenges, and opportunities for retailers.
Thank you, John. To frame our discussion, I would like to share with you some of the key trends that we and our customers are seeing, powerful forces that are changing the game for retailers. It has been a tough 2 years for the economy, and as the recovery takes shape, the experts are saying that we will emerge into a new normal. This will not be business as usual. There is a confluence of economic, social, and technological transformations that will present both challenges and opportunities for retailers. Firstly, powerful consumers. Consumers today have learned to use technology, such as search and social media, to empower their buying decisions. According to Gartner, more than 85% of shoppers go online before visiting a store. Secondly, the mobile revolution and multi-channel retailing. This means that some shoppers never go into a store. With the rise of wireless technology and mobile devices, a new generation of consumers has learned to gain information, connect with their communities, and transact business on the go. Thirdly, globalization and consolidation has truly flattened the world, as U.S. retailers, both large and small, have expanded their reach into global markets, and foreign competitors have landed in the U.S. marketplace with aggressive plans for world domination. Fourthly, price and margin pressures. Consumer behavior has been permanently altered as we come out of the longest recession since the Great Depression. Consumers are less loyal, and for the majority of their purchases, will continue to look for value in their brands. Last but not least, speed to market. In a highly competitive and promotion-driven marketplace, selling windows have been compressed and product life cycles shortened. For example, Inditex, a $15 billion global fashion apparel retailer who owns brands such as Zara, sends new designs to its stores twice a week. Next slide, please, John. Of all these trends, arguably the most disruptive are the consumerization of information technology and mobility. As a result of this, retail information is exploding. As Eric Schmidt, CEO of Google, said at a conference, there was 5 exabytes of information created between the dawn of civilization through the year 2003. But that much information is now created every 2 days, and the pace is increasing. According to Gartner, enterprise data will grow 650% over the next 5 years, with 80% of that being unstructured data, meaning the data explosion spans both traditional sources, such as point of sale, price, receipt, and shipment data, as well as non-traditional sources, such as email, office documents, and web content, including social media. In fact, due to price transparency arising from mobile shopping apps and price comparison sites, prices on the web can change within seconds. Next slide, please, John. The IT industry has called this phenomenon big data. Gartner says that big data is characterized by extreme volume, diversity, and complexity of data types and formats, and velocity of record creation, and refers to data sets whose size is beyond the ability of typical database tools to capture, store, manage, and analyze. This adds up to a mountain of data with dual challenges. It is harder to find what you want, and it takes longer to process it. However, McKinsey, in their latest report, finds that big data can create significant value for the world economy and industries, enhancing the productivity and competitiveness of companies and creating substantial economic surplus for consumers. For example, they estimate that retailers who leverage big data to the full have the potential to increase operating margins by more than 60%. Retailers are awash in information, and there are no signs of a slowdown. In fact, as the mergers and acquisitions market heats up, many retailers will be further increasing their data volumes and inputs as they work to integrate acquired companies' data with their own. The challenge then is separating useful information from the other stuff. Today, the typical retailer is collecting more data than it can feasibly use. This means that even data that would normally be quite valuable can get lost in the influx of less useful information. Successful retailers are those that can strategically manage their information. Not only do these retailers save money by offloading old or useless data, they also offer decision makers access to clean and up-to-date information. Next slide, please. So where does bad data come from? The problem with data is that its quality quickly degenerates over time. Experts say 2% of records in a customer file become obsolete in 1 month because customers die, divorce, marry, and move on. In addition, data entry errors, system migrations, and changes to source systems, among other things, generate bucket loads of errors. In a typical retailer, thousands of SKUs are added and deleted each season. More importantly, as organizations grow and fragment into different divisions and units, interpretations of data elements change to meet the local business needs. A data element that one individual or organization finds valuable may not make sense to an individual in a different group. Problems start when you have incorrect information about entities, such as invalid contact information for your customers or partners, improper addresses, improper SKU numbers, or ship to or bill to information. These problems are exacerbated if duplicates enter the system. It then becomes difficult to identify the correct entity to enter new information against, or to even verify basic information such as how many customers you have and which products they own, and which products come from which suppliers. Next slide, please. So what is the impact of poor data quality? Well, during the past 50 years, the developed world has moved from an industrial economy to an information economy. Companies now compete on the ability to absorb and respond to information, not just manufacture and distribute goods. Intellectual capital and know-how are more important assets than physical infrastructure and equipment. Knowledge workers, not factory hands, dominate the workforce. If information is the currency of the new economy, then data is a critical raw material needed for success. Just as a refinery takes crude oil and transforms it into numerous petroleum products, organizations use data to generate a multiplicity of information assets. These assets form the basis of strategic plans and actions that determine an organization's success. Consequently, poor data quality can have a serious impact on the health of a company. If not identified and corrected early, defective data can contaminate all downstream systems and information assets, jacking up costs, jeopardizing customer relationships, and causing imprecise forecasts and poor decisions. The Data Warehouse Institute estimates that poor quality customer data costs U.S. businesses a staggering $611 billion a year. In addition, many large enterprises experience underperforming customer relationship management, enterprise resource planning, data warehousing, and business intelligence initiatives. These projects' lack of success can often be attributed to the same root cause: lack of business user confidence in the data captured, managed, and consumed by these applications. Next slide, please. So what does all this mean for retail executives? And more importantly, how should they respond? We envision that this environment, successful retailers will need to execute flawlessly on a business model that we call retail without boundaries. We believe there are three core components to this new evolving retail model. John, you can build out the slide. Firstly, speed to deliver on customer expectations with a demand-driven supply network. Secondly, reach to enable customers to interact and transact across multiple channels, anywhere, anytime, and on any device through a unified customer channel. And lastly, personalization to present customers with relevant information and offers that will anticipate and satisfy their needs and reward their loyalty based on customer insight and predictive analytics. SAP has focused our product strategy and investments on assembling a portfolio of integrated tools to enable retailers achieve this vision. Let's look at how enabling data quality and data governance in the retail enterprise can help retailers become more efficient, grow sales and profits, and enhance customer experience and loyalty. Next slide, please. Here are some examples of how data quality can positively impact the various key business processes that form the value chain of a retailer. Let's start with corporate operations, such as finance and store operations, where many retail executives and regional and district managers are on the move all the time, and there is usually a huge latency in getting the most up-to-date information. Data quality enables them to get answers to their questions more rapidly, allowing them to react faster and free up time to focus on their line of business and customers. Next, in merchandising, data quality enables buyers and category managers to collect and analyze and act on vast amounts of data on customers, products, locations, and channel information, thus allowing them to adjust merchandise, assortment, and pricing strategies to better achieve their business goals, while at the same time meeting customer expectations. An example of poor data quality in merchandising may be missing merchandise attributes, so that when the merchandising team wants to execute a promotion and they execute on specific merchandise attributes, if these are missing from certain products or SKUs, they will not be included in the promotion. And worst case, they might actually cause a lot of customer dissatisfaction when customers try and buy these products and find that the prices have not been altered in store. Next, in the supply chain, they have always been an early adopter of real-time computing with radio frequency devices in the warehouse, as well as handheld devices in field services such as delivery, maintenance, and repair. Data quality is essential for real-time transaction processing of appointment scheduling, route planning, deliveries, payments, and inventory movements. A critical example here in the supply chain may be missing information on a product dimension, or cube information as they call it in the industry. This is so crucial because the algorithms within a warehouse use this information to actually build loads for trucking purposes, as well as for slotting information as they put away and pick merchandise in the warehouse. If this information is missing or is erroneous, it can cause tremendous inefficiencies out of stocks and missed shipments in the warehouse. Next, in terms of customer experience, this area is rich in possibilities, not only from a consumer point of view, but also for store associates, by freeing them from their cash registers or service desks and enabling to walk the floor and interact with customers, ensuring that products are available on the selling floor or finding them in nearby stores or online. Lastly, for IT, data quality is critical for enabling employees to serve themselves better by performing advanced analytics themselves. This lowers the cost of supporting a retailer's information management services and allows them to redirect their IT budget and resources to building and supporting new applications that will drive retail innovation and differentiation. Failed IT projects are due to two most common problems caused by poor data quality. Firstly, the extra time required to reconcile data, and secondly, the loss of credibility in the system or application. Next slide, please. So how can retailers get started? I'd like to outline a three-step approach to data quality and data governance. Firstly, unlock the power of information to all your enterprise data and systems of records. This includes not only your enterprise applications, but also your legacy applications, and also unstructured data such as email and spreadsheets, and external data. All these are tremendous information assets that need to be unlocked, combined, and analyzed. Secondly, govern information as an asset through information stewardship and transparency. This means cleansing your data, removing duplicates, and again, adding critical external information to enrich this data. Lastly, deliver this information through systems of engagement, anytime, anywhere, and on any device. This includes analyzing social media, real-time dashboards, and analytic applications that analyze sales, customer interactions, and the supply chain. I'd now like to hand over to one of our partners, Frank Dravis of Utopia, Inc., who will tell us their experiences in executing such a strategy and the benefits they obtained for their customers. Over to you, Frank.
Thank you. And John, are you going to make me a presenter? Thank you for that. And so in Jerry's explanation of the retail data phenomenon, it's important to understand, and bring up the slide, thank you very much. It's important to understand how to kind of bridge that gap. You know, when John started off the presentation showing the bridge across the Bosphorus there, that was quite fascinating to me. And it's my job here to provide you that similar bridge, because Jerry talked about the benefits of high-quality data in the retail environment, and he alluded to some of the problems. So let's talk about some of the solutions and bridging that gap. Now, the first thing is to understand, you need to employ a proven data integration or data migration methodology, because somewhere along the line here in that retail information chain, you've got to not only you consume your information, but it's going to be moved, it's going to be managed, it's going to be reconciled, it's going to be cleansed, and oftentimes in an effort to optimize your retail information processes, you're going to consolidate multiple systems into one system, potentially it's ERP, or perhaps you are acquiring a new retail vendor and you get a customer list with that along with products, along with vendor information, and you need to combine that into your own single system so that you can gain a single view of that, of your customers and products and vendors. So having a methodology to begin that whole process is quite comforting, and as you can see here, the methodology that we use at SAP and Utopia has 5 different phases in it: project preparation, business blueprinting, realization, final preparation, go live, and support. And you can also see that within each of those phases there are different key activities, such as scoping and identifying the data requirements, all the way down through loading your target system. And so it's critical to have this methodology to start your retail process, retail data management process, because it removes the mystery of the steps in the migration or integration effort. Certainly provides a framework for your project scoping and planning, and it reduces project cycle time, but it also steers inexperienced staff away from various pitfalls that you would otherwise encounter along that route. And then, in a retail environment, profit margins can be razor thin, so it's always about efficiency in the chain and effectiveness in our marketing efforts. Excuse me. So one of those key activities in the methodology is profiling your customer data, product data, and vendor data. I mean, if you don't profile that information before you use it or try and consume it, how do you know what you have? Therefore, when you profile your information, you know how to continuously improve your data quality because you know what the defects are. You're able to provide visibility into the quality of that information, which is key to substantiating the expenditures on the project. Helps you reduce risks for propagating bad data, such as finding data anomalies and remediating the data issues. It also helps you easily understand data relationships when you profile that information, because you need that for doing your field mappings from one system to another. What data is worthwhile? What is the shape of that data? What's the actual attributes around that field of information? How can you actually map that unless you understand what's in it? And so lastly, it helps you justify a data cleansing project. Quantify the poor impact or the impact of poor data on the business. Speeds up your data integration project, but also it helps you identify the size of the data quality problem. So here's kind of a blowout of the methodology I exposed to you earlier, and you can see indeed there are many activities in each one of these phases, but the activity that we're talking about here is data profiling. And under project preparation, right after you kick off the scoping study, is indeed a data health assessment where you profile your information so that you've got further data to take into your migration framework setup, but mainly to understand, okay, we've scoped out we're going to move these 5 systems or integrate into these single system from 27 different retail applications. What is the data in those 27 different systems? How can it be integrated together? What's overlapping? What's valuable? What's obsolete? You don't know unless you do your quote-unquote data health assessment, which is a data profile. And then under business blueprinting, there it is again. Once we've actually started moving through each of the different what we call objects in SAP, especially for the ERP systems, otherwise known as data domains, as we start cycling through each one of them and extracting the data out of the source systems, we did our initial profiling to determine the scope, but now that we've pulled out our targeted data, what are the specific characteristics of that field? And there could be hundreds of fields because you're pulling potentially hundreds of tables from multiple systems. So you want to profile that legacy data so that hence right after it, you've got your blue box there where you provide information to your transformation rules and you got data to supply to your upload logic workshops. And then that's how you know what information to filter out that's obsolete. So that just shows you a couple of blow-ups of where you profile your information in the methodology. Now, of course, profiling data accumulates metadata about your data quality, about your information. And having that is half the challenge. The other half of the challenge is communicating the results to your subject matter experts, your key decision stakeholders, corporate senior management. And the best way to present that information is not so much in a spreadsheet where you have your tables and columns of defect information, but visualize it, in a dashboard, a reporting scorecard, something that you can post up on your intranet so that people can pull down that quality information whenever they need, because it's going to be dynamic because you can update it periodically. So things they're going to want is, like an aggregate data quality score or individual data quality metrics on any of the 15 or so dimensions of quality that are on your information, such as accuracy, completeness, conformity, and integrity. Then, of course, there's no better way to visualize or get a grasp of the data quality trend than through a visualization of that, so you can see how various remediation activities are either positively influencing your data quality trend, or perhaps when you're entering in your customer data or new product information or vendor data, and you're profiling that maybe nightly or weekly, you'll see a trend. And if you've not protected that data quality entry, if you've not validated it, that input in real time, you may see a negative trend as you have leaks of poor data into your repository, and you see the data quality trend digress. And that's a great early warning and indicator of what more you should do to maintain and increase your information quality. So that's at the high level, but let's start talking about specifically, bridging the gap between high-value retail information and low-quality data. Here on the left-hand side, you can see we've got, 3 input records. You could have, one from each source or maybe multiple duplicates from a single source. Sky's the limit as to how many input records you could have that are candidates for a single customer or firm or vendor. And in this one, you can see we have multiple permutations of the contact person, multiple permutations of the firm or the vendor information, the vendor data, and then, of course, the actual address. And so what you want to do is be able to combine that through cleansing, matching, consolidation into a single record for that particular customer, contact, or vendor. Well, for those 3, the processes are largely the same, depending if you want to merge contact records or merge customer records or merge vendor records. Fortunately, the algorithms and process is largely the same. And what we've done here on the right is you can see we've got one consolidated record. We've appended various demographic data. We've even retrieved the purchasing history from the input records and appended them here so we can see what products this particular customer has purchased. And we've standardized the customer and firm names and standardized the address. This begins to make your problem substantially easier to deal with. But understand that, cleansing customer data is just the first half of the struggle. And that's not even maybe the first half. It's the first third of your retail information chain, because after that, you've got to deal with product, and you have to deal with vendor, and then once you're done with cleansing those, then you want to build your customer, product, vendor hierarchy so that when you plug in a new customer, it easily fits in that hierarchy so you can quickly determine what product to sell them, through what vendor, on what features, and what price. And you know, for catalogers or anyone with the complex retail infrastructure, that can be a daunting prospect. I was recently working with a client, an eyeglass manufacturer, and they had a number of different lens frames, product lines, and it could be, you know, it was a complex environment because, you know, they needed to determine what was a generic frame, what was a variant off of that generic, and how they could potentially brand one frame under one label versus another. And so it all gets down to this lengthy retail information chain, and in order to manage it, you know, first you want to take your contact data of an individual for either a customer or a vendor and cleanse that contact data so that you can consolidate that contact data into a single individual, and then do the same thing for the customer, cleanse and match and merge the customer records so that you have one customer. So understand, you may have multiple contacts at one customer, but you want to make sure they're all unique. And so then, once you do that, you want to understand what product categories is that customer familiar with and what are they interested in. Because then once you match the correct product across different families and categories to that customer and potentially that specific contact, then you want to drill down into what are the product attributes. Because you may have, it may be a person who's interested in buying nautical products for a large steamship line, and they want to buy various navigational lights and beacons, if you will, but there's different intensities, different colors. And so having a product category identified to navigation lights is fine, but now we got to get into the specific product attributes, which are very key. Because, you know, navigating on the high seas, there are laws that says, you know, an anchor light shall have this certain intensity, and so product attributes are key. And then once you've parsed that information and standardized it, then you get to the vendor families. Say, okay, these are the product attributes I need. What vendor families support that specifically? And then what within that vendor family, I found a vendor I like. What product features for that vendor meet the need of this specific client and customer? And so what that develops at the end there is a very rich client product vendor hierarchy that you do through matching and consolidating. So let me just show you this next example here. This is, you know, product data. I've showed you the customer data one where you're matching and standardizing across customer, contact, and vendor data. This one is for product. And this one, the data, the information is more unique because sky's the limit as far as what can be a product. I mean, consider this. A material or item for one person is a product for another firm. So, you know, what an oil refinery or an oil refiner may have purchased, like a 2-ton oil pump, is actually the product from their vendor. And so you look at the same way of parsing and standardizing item and material masses works for products. And I'll get into that here. So you can see on the left-hand side we have our original records. You know, there's 4 original records. And those have been standardized for matching. So we have in our center here the 2 remaining standardized records. Because after standardization, there was only determined to be 2 unique records. Then, even though those appear to be sort of different, by employing a matching algorithm, you can determine that they are now indeed one single record. So we've taken 4 duplicate products records and consolidated down to one, and then we enhanced that for product differentiation. Differentiation against your competitors, that is. Because now, when the customer, maybe it's a catalog, maybe they're calling into your customer service center, and they have specific questions, and they're concerned about maybe thickness or various features. And you want to be able to provide that information in the product catalog, either online or print, so that you can differentiate that specific product from your competitor. And this is all part of the data standardization, cleansing, and consolidation and enhancement of product information. And to help you with that, part of the process is typically you will develop a taxonomy, not one, but multiple taxonomies, and data dictionaries, because you need to have that reference base of, what are the terms in your particular industry vernacular? What are the allowable dimensions? What are the allowable list of attributes? And as you can see, developing this vernacular or taxonomy for a set of roller bearings, as you can see on the screen here, can be quite complex if you have to do it manually. But fortunately, there are tools out there that allow you to, in at least a semi-automated, if not fully automated fashion, develop those parsing dictionaries, reference tables, truth tables, whatever you want to call them. Because what they will do is they will allow you to scan through your source data, and working in conjunction with your domain experts and your business users, perform an automated analysis of that text, so that you can identify commonly used words and their variations, and suggest appropriate alternatives for loading into a dictionary of terms of product names and dimensions and features and colors and in any other way you would want to define a particular product for your industry. And so this allows you to build those dictionaries and reference tables and then publish them to be consumed by an ETL tool. Maybe it's data services from SAP, but the benefit here is it allows you to easily create these custom data cleansing solutions, not just for your data, but for any data domain. And that's important because what happens is those same validation rules that I talked about earlier in the data profiling section, where you're measuring for accuracy and completeness and conformity and integrity, those same rules are used to tell you how good the data is, but they can also be used one step further in cleansing, in enhancing, and improving the data. But what's important to them is that they must have a truth data set, a golden set of information that those complex parsing algorithms can actually bounce data against and determine, okay, here are the allowable weights, here are the allowable ranges, here's the allowable unit of measurements, etc., and colors and descriptions. Without that, your sophisticated algorithms that you've used an ETL tool or other tool to build are just so much code, they're not actually useful. So it's important to be able to create those taxonomies quickly and efficiently because product data can be very rich and very broad depending on what industry you're in. So the last thing I wanted to mention is providing you a solution for when you enter in, cleansing the data, standardizing it in batch, you have to do that because, You may have millions of records in your data systems, and you're potentially doing a migration or an integration effort, and you've got to run things in batch. And fine. But as I talked about earlier, measuring the data quality trend and showing that graphically about how the remediation efforts have improved your level of quality, but how potentially your data entry has not been protected and is causing a degeneration in your data quality. A way to protect against that is what we call real-time data governance. And that is, you can take those data validation rules that you've developed and used in a batch, and you can employ them in real time at the point of entry. And so that when questions arise from the input of either new customer, new product, new vendor data, it can go to an approver who can either approve the data that's being entered, suggest alternatives, or it can be rejected and sent back for rework. And so imagine, if you will, your product data or item master data can be quite complex when you're entering it. And so having this reviewer, multi-stage, multi-step reviewer process is a quite sophisticated approach. And it all depends on what is the level of quality that you want entered into your system will determine how many steps in this process you have. But suffice to say, it ensures data quality at the point of capture, ensures immediate compliance with your corporate data standards, allows prompt feedback of errors at the time of creation, it eliminates the proliferation of defective data, certainly improves the effectiveness of all downstream data operations because they're getting fed clean data rather than defective data. And last but not least, and this is very, very important, it reduces overall system maintenance by capturing the defects early. I mean, imagine, if you will, if there's 10 different operations downstream, and each one of those 10 different operations has to deal with a data quality problem in and of itself and doesn't pass on the benefit of the cleansed data downstream. Well, that you don't have to worry about any of that if you ensure that data is cleansed up front at the point of data capture with real-time data governance. So with that, I just want to close out my section of the presentation by recapping some of the points that we've talked about here. First, start your retail data management project with a proven methodology. It's going to reduce a lot of angst and uncertainty and concern with your IT and business staff when you can tell them, here, this is the methodology we're using, because they feel much more comfortable. Certainly, you want to profile your customer, product, and vendor data just to know what you have and know what you're going to have to do, what's usable, and how you're going to have to fix it, and what actually maps to where. So profiling is where you start there. Third thing is, don't assume retail data cleansing ends with customer. It just begins with customer, because after that, you've got your product and vendor chains to follow on after that. Certainly plan on using taxonomies and reference tables for your product data. And last but not least, employ a real-time data governance operation when you capture your data to empower and improve the effectiveness and efficiency of all downstream operations. So with that, I'd like to turn the floor back over to John.
Great. Thank you very much, Frank and Jerry. Thank you both for your sharing your presentations on behalf of everyone. Thanks for the value that you have shared with us. So moving along now, it's time for questions, and we'd like to open it up. So I see we already have a couple of questions compiled, and we can get started with those. But please keep asking questions as they arise via the question pane to your right, and we'll answer as many as time allows. So a first question here, perhaps directed at you, Frank. In your experience, what is the most common information process, and you may have touched on some of this, but what's the most common information process that leads to bad data in an organization? Where do you see it the most?
Well, the data capture, data entry by human beings is particularly prone to problems, especially, dare I say it, salespeople, account managers, account reps, when they're entering in customer data. They're in a hurry. Maybe they don't want to search to see if the customer is existing there already. So anything that you can protect that while, and it's a balancing act. It's you know, how much protection versus how much leeway do you want to provide in the entry. But I've seen that as a key source of data entry errors. Also, when you're doing a migration or any integration of data and you're not paying careful attention to the business rules that consolidate that information, and just field overuse problems. When you're trying to consume data and you're pulling it from, you know, the Social Security number field, and you find out you've got phone numbers in there, go back and assess what is the history of that field, because if it's an older field, you know, there could be chances that field has been used for different information over the years, and so you need to validate your data before you consume it. John?
Great, thanks very much, Frank. We have a second question here. Perhaps from a business perspective and some of Jerry's thoughts. Jerry, how do you see the importance of information governance growing with executives, and what do you feel is the greatest impetus behind the growing concern?
Well, I think, you know, the first question was the importance of data to the executives, and I think this is increasing because in the past, information was treated more as a record of what happened. So, you know, people were looking in the rearview mirror and measuring their performance. Increasingly today, with data as an important asset, executives are trying to leverage data in order to look forward. So not only from a business perspective, what are the data trends, analyzing the data, where is my business going, what are the opportunities, but also from a consumer viewpoint, such as, you know, what has the consumer done in the past, but more importantly, how can I make that or treat that shopper, that person, you know, more effectively, anticipate their needs, and make their customer experience a whole lot better. So it's really, you know, grown exponentially, I would say, in terms of importance of the business and in terms of, you know, executive focus.
All right, thanks, Jerry. And one other question here, perhaps directed at Frank again, and probably stems from you know, an awareness of saying, hey, are we boiling the ocean here with data governance? Because some of this may appear to be daunting, but typically, how long does an engagement, a services engagement, take in order to kind of realize some initial success in a particular data domain, if you will?
Well, I always, if we're talking specifically a data quality project, my number one recommendation is that if you have, say, 40,000 tables and 100 fields per table or attributes per table, that you prioritize what is important to you at that point of time, because there's some corporate strategy that's driving that data quality project. And you will know, if you delve into that, what fields are important to you at that point in time, because my suggestion is that you scope that project so that you can start it and complete it, a data cleansing project, within no longer than 2.5 months. So if you've got 10 tables you need to cleanse, and each table, these are priority tables, and each table's got a priority of 10 fields that you need to cleanse. So you've got 100 tables, and if you figure it out, well, to do it right, because there's 10 different rules we need to apply to each field, so you got 10 times 10 times 10, so you got 1,000 different rules that maybe you need to create and run, and you say, well, that's going to take me about 6 months to do it. My caution to you would be scale that list, phase it in so that you can get results once every 2.5 months or so, and keep up the momentum and keep that inertia and energy behind the initiative going. And so just structure it for about that period of time, no matter how much information you got. That way your stakeholders see benefit and value in the near term, and you can build upon the success and generate momentum going forward. John?
Great, thank you, Frank. And one question here, and perhaps this is our final one as we're coming to a close. Can you share with us, Frank, some examples of retailers who have successfully used the SAP data quality solution to become more profitable?
Well, yeah, there's a number of, Jesus, sky's the limit there, how many different people have done that, because it gets to the algorithms and the taxonomies that I've talked about in my presentation there. I know that people can use Information Steward right now to help build those taxonomies, and they use data services to actually cleanse that data. The retail, for customer and vendor data, it's about name and address cleansing and firm standardization and looking up the firms and validating the firms. With product data, as I said in my presentation, it's a bit more complex because the data can be quite unique. But as long as you can define what that retail element is of yours, like that nautical supplier I spoke about, it's a light fixture. It has this type of bulb. It burns this bright. It has that color. As long as you can define those rules or the features, you can put that in a table, and then your cleansing solution can use that to go through and scrub your information depending on what is that particular product at hand. So it's, if you can describe your business, there are tools, SAP tools out there that allow you to implement it and clean that data. John?
Great, thanks very much, Frank. And with that brings our question time to a close. But as we've learned today, information management and data quality are very much viable ways to encourage cost savings and growth for retailers. And in light of our presentation, we'd like to take the conversation further with you, if you will, and offer every participant an opportunity to benefit from the discussion today. As we're entering the final critical months of the year, SAP and Utopia would like to offer a free data quality assessment to you and your organization. And the value for you in this exercise really lies in discovering a baseline for where to begin your data quality efforts. In addition, we'd like to offer a special promotion to participants to help you quick start your data quality efforts. And SAP and Utopia have put together a package offering of software and services that will help you launch your data quality strategy in as little as 4 to 6 weeks. So please contact us for details. I'll put our contact details up in a minute. And let us know how we can partner with you to your success. So once again, thank you all for participating today. You can reach us here via email, phone, or via social media channels through Twitter. We'd be happy to connect with you and have a further discussion about how we can help you better understand your data and help you essentially build that bridge towards success. So thank you all for participating today, and this brings our presentation to a close. Have a great afternoon.